Hi guys, welcome to the second in our sequence of presentations about strings. Today we're going to continue talking about operations that we can do on strings. Um, so the first one that we're going to talk about is a really common operation. It's called string concatenation. So string concatenation is when we append one string to the end of another string. So string concatenation is very common. It's actually really simple to do in Python. We can use the plus operator. So the plus operator produces a string that's a combination of its operands. We can also use the plus equal operators. Um, the thing to keep in mind here is that the plus operator with respect to strings is not the same as the plus operator that you have for arithmetic. For arithmetic, when we do, like a equals 1 plus 7, and then we print a, we get we get 8, right? So we run this. Unexpected indent. Oops, we gotta watch our indentations here. All right. So yeah, you gotta watch your indentations. So we get 8, which is what we expect. On the other hand, if we use the plus operator with strings, if I say name equals Chuck plus Fleming, and then I print this name, what I'm going to get is the concatenation of those strings, which is those two strings stuck together. So if I run this, you see I get Chuck Fleming. Notice that in this case, it does not put a space in the middle. So if I want to put a space in there, I would have to say something like space plus, or I could put a space in the Chuck at the beginning of Fleming. It doesn't matter, but now it prints correctly. So concatenation with strings does not add the strings, it sticks the strings together like a train, like they're cars of a train, and you're just, chunk, 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 building your train of little pieces of strings. So concatenation with strings is pretty easy. We also have a plus equals, so we can like build a string up. So for example, I could say name equals Chuck. Oops, hold on. And then I could say name plus equals space. We don't want that. And then I could say name plus equals Fleming. And what this will do is first it'll assign Chuck to the variable string, the string variable name. Then it's going to add or concatenate the space, and then it's going to add or concatenate Fleming at the end of that. So if we run this, we see we actually get the same output. What we're doing is sort of sticking these pieces together, but we're doing it piece by piece. So this is actually pretty useful in a lot of cases. You'll see, if you ever do any more advanced programming, you'll see that this is pretty useful to be able to do. For example, maybe you're building a dynamic web page, something like this. You can sort of stick it together as you get the pieces that you need. So strings are immutable. So what immutable means is you cannot change it. It looks like when we add things to a string, like for example with that name variable, it looks like we are adding something to that string, right? We're just increasing the length of the string, but in fact we're not. What we're doing is we're destroying the old string and making a new string that just happens to have the same variable name. So we are destroying the strings every time, and the reason that we do that is because of the way that we allocate memory for these things, right? So in allocate memory for a string, allocate memory for the C, the H, the U, the C, the K. When I want to add to that, I may or may not have space, memory space at the end of that string to extend it. And if I don't, then I have to make a whole new string with a bigger chunk of memory allocated, and then I put the characters into the new string. So one thing to be aware of is one consequence of this is because we're making a new string every time, we cannot do something like string bracket index equals new character. So if you recall, we can, for example, in some of the early example code, if you go back and look at the other video, we printed out individual characters. We can print those things out. In other words, we can access them, but we can't change them. If you try to change them, you're going to get an error, you're getting an exception. It doesn't work that way. You can't change the string. It's immutable, okay? So here's an example that they have. We have the name Carmen. We add the name Brown to it. We get the name Carmen Brown. This is string concatenation. But remember, we're actually creating a new string that's the sum of the previous two strings. But it's a completely new string just with the same variable name. All right, so string slicing is taking spans of items from a sequence. This is called a substring. So a substring is a subset of the original string. So we can do that with this syntax. We can have a string start colon end, and the expression will return a string containing a copy of the characters from start up to but not including end. So if you don't specify the start, then it'll use 0 for the start index, and if the end isn't specified, it'll just get everything. So we can also use step values just like we did with range, and we can use negative indexes relative to the end of the string. So an example of this would be let's print a subset of the name. Let's print 0, 3. So how many characters is that going to print? Let's run it. Oh, string indexes must be integers. Oops, I'm using the wrong syntax here. It needs to be colon. Sorry. So we're going to run this. It's going to print CHU, so it's going to print element 0, 1, and 2, not element 3, right? Because element 3 is actually the fourth element in the string. So we can print other elements. We could say let's print 1 to 4, and that's going to print. It's not going to print the first character because the first character is 0. It's going to print HUCK. So we can access substrings, subpieces of this original string in our code using the syntax with the using the syntax with the brackets and the colon, start, end. We can also use, let's say I want to do 1 through 6 colon 2. And what this is going to do is this is going to print every other letter starting from 1. So it's going to print H, it's going to skip U, it's going to print C, it's going to skip K, and then we're actually going to be past the end of 6, so it's not going to print 6. Or actually it's going to print the space, right? There's a space in here that you can't see. And then it's not going to print anything else because we're printing H, C, space, and then we're done. So we can also use indexes like this to skip letters in the word. It's pretty straightforward. It's fairly simple to be able to do some of these things. Python makes it very, very easy to do these things. Other languages, it can be much, much harder to do these things. So I think that's it for this video, and next time we'll talk a little bit more about string functions, and I will probably get assignment 2 out to you fairly soon. Okay, thanks everyone.